What's up, sisters? This is your boy, Beef, and welcome back to the channel. I hope you're having a fantastic day, because today we're cooking up a really fun build guide for the Mystic class using the Order of the Wu Gen. Before we get into it, thank you all so much for watching. If you like this kind of content, let me know by liking the video and subscribing to the channel for more modded build guides for Baldur's Gate 3. But without further ado, let's hop into the build. When it comes to the Mystic class, there are a truly insane amount of options available to use to fully customize the role our character will play in our party. You can spec out as a tanky melee frontliner, a battlefield controller who preys upon your enemy's emotions, a glass cannon archer, a psionic assassin who inflicts damage with psychic blades, an open-hand Jedi monk, an undead summoner. The variability the Mystic class provides is second to none, truly. Because of that, building a Mystic can be a little bit daunting, and it can be easy to spread your character too thin without any cohesion. Generally speaking, I find that the trick with this class is to start with an idea for what you want your character to be and what role they will fill in your party composition, and then pick a subclass and disciplines that will help you to achieve those goals. I want to give a big shout out to Very Melon Man 12 for requesting a Wu Gen subclass build, which then inspired the idea for this build guide. The Wu Gen subclass is primarily an elemental caster. The Wu Gen specific disciplines all deal with the elements in some way, be they water, earth, fire, or air. Because long ago, the four nations lived together in harmony. But then, everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. For this Mystic Wu Gen build, we're modeling our skills around Katara of the Southern Water Tribe from Avatar: The Last Airbender. Katara is one of the most powerful waterbenders in the series, and later in the show even learns how to bloodbend. So we're going to be including some of that into this build as well. But let's go ahead and move into the leveling process for this character so that we can take a look at some of the skills and disciplines this character is going to take. Starting at level 1, we're taking the Order of the Wu Gen subclass, obviously. With this subclass, we start with our choice of 2 Wu Gen disciplines, of which we are going to be picking the Mastery of Ice and Mastery of Water. These disciplines will give us some unique water and ice-themed attacks, buffs, and summons that will be a ton of fun and comprise the majority of our combat offensive capabilities. Although at these lower levels, we only have access to the first couple of abilities within each discipline until we level up and learn how to do the more advanced waterbending techniques. Mastery of Ice grants us a psychic focus, which gives us resistance to cold damage and makes it impossible for us to slip on our own ice surfaces, which means we can replace a specific piece of gear that many ice builds use with just this passive buff. We also get Ice Spike, which is similar to Ice Knife and Ray of Frost. It's a good basic ice projectile that can be upcasted for more damage. Ice Sheet allows us to create a very large ice surface that will trip up our enemies and make them fall while we skate around and throw ice spikes at them. Frozen Sanctuary is a buff which gives us 20 temporary hit points, which is really powerful for damage mitigation. Frozen Rain is a concentration spell which reduces enemy movement speed to 0 while doing 6d6 cold damage. And Ice Barrier is very similar to Ice Wall from the base game. It raises a big wall of solid ice that deals a ton of damage, and when it gets broken, does even more damage. Mastery of Water, on the other hand, grants us a psychic focus, which allows us to walk on water surfaces unimpeded, which I'm not exactly sure myself how that really affects anything, since water surfaces in the game are just puddles that anyone can walk through. I'll mostly be ignoring this. It does otherwise give you resistance to fire damage, which is nice if you're in the House of Hope or anywhere else that uses a lot of fire damage, but we still want to focus on our ice discipline here for not being able to fall prone on ice. Desiccate, however, does 1d10 necrotic damage and drains all the moisture from a creature in a small area of effect, leaving a water surface below them. It can be upcasted to do even more damage. Watery Grasp creates a swirling storm, which pulls creatures towards us and deals 2d6 bludgeoning damage. Water Whip does 3d6 bludgeoning damage in a huge line, leaving a water surface and pushing enemies back. Water Sphere is an interesting spell which creates a bubble around a creature that cuts their movement speed in half. They get disadvantage on attack rolls, and they also are blinded. Attack rolls against the creature do have disadvantage, however, so this ability is best used to isolate a specific enemy like a wizard or archer, at least until you can deal with them other ways. And Animate Water gives us the ability to summon a water elemental. Simple and really great. Water elementals are one of the best ones in the game, so perfect. There are a ton of other elemental disciplines in here to choose from. In theory, you could make a build for any kind of bender using these. Mastery of air and gravity for an airbender, master of wood and earth and metal for a tough earthbending build, mastery of fire and weather for a firebending Zuko build. The options here are really kind of endless. You can focus on whatever you want to do. I do recommend not going for as many of these as possible because we do only get access to a specific amount of disciplines. So we want to be able to build our character into a cohesive unit that has a specific role instead of kind of spreading ourselves across all of the elements. In Avatar, the Avatar is super powerful because they have access to all of the elements. But in this game, we want to kind of narrow ourselves down and be a little bit more specific about what elements we like to mess with. At a base level, the Mystic class also starts off with one extra discipline, which we are going to be choosing Psionic Restoration. Katara has the ability to use water to heal her allies, so it only makes sense to grab the healing discipline so we can help fill that role for our party. We get access to a psionic discipline, which gives us additional healing whenever we heal an ally. We get Mend Wounds, which is basically cure wounds. Restore Health, which is just like lesser restoration. Restore Life, which is basically Revivify. And Restore Vigor, which is like greater restoration. For our psionic talents, which are effectively like the cantrips for this class, we're going to start by taking Energy Beam. Energy Beam, although it says that it does 1d8 fire damage, you can choose a specific type of element. So this is basically going to be our version of Ray of Frost because we don't have access to Ray of Frost otherwise. So we're going to get a nice cold damage cantrip to form the majority of our damage. We're also going to choose Mystic Hand, which gives us the ability to throw things with our mind. For our ability scores, we want to focus primarily on Intelligence and Constitution. Intelligence is our spellcasting ability, so we want that to be as high as possible with a 16. You could bump it up to 17 if you plan to use the Anti-Ethel's Hair, but I'm going to act like we're not using it, so I'm just going to keep it at 16 for a nice base level. While Constitution will help us to maintain the concentration on abilities, since the Mystic class is very heavy on concentration abilities, so we want that also to be 16 to get the biggest boost to that and to our health as possible. We're going to be setting our Dexterity to 14 because we wear light armor and we want to have as much armor class bonus as possible, as well as a nice boost to our initiative. We're going to set our Wisdom to 12 and our Strength and Charisma both to 8 because we don't need these abilities very much. For your skill proficiencies, you can go with pretty much whatever you want to grab here. You start off with a Arcana and History plus 7s here, so otherwise I am going to go with, we're going to go with Perception and Survival because they are both really great abilities to have. But that pretty much takes care of level 1. Let's move on to level 2. At level 2, we get access to our Mystical Recovery, which after spending psi points, you can spend a bonus action to regain hit points equal to 1 plus half your Mystic level. And we also get Telepathy, which gives us permanent Detect Thoughts. We don't get much else at Mystic level 2, so let's move on to level 3. At level 3, we get our first subclass feature called Elemental Attunement. This allows us to spend a psi point on our turn to ignore resistance to whatever elemental type we want when dealing damage. Because we are a waterbender, we are primarily going to be using the ice version of this to just negate enemies' resistance to ice damage, which is really great and super powerful. We're also going to get access to a new psionic talent, and you can grab whatever you want here. I'm going to be taking Delusion, primarily for the utility of it. This is effectively the Mystic version of Minor Illusion, so this is very useful for just distracting our enemies and doing whatever we want to do in the game. For our next psionic discipline, we are going to be learning how to bloodbend. To do this, we are going to scroll nearly to the bottom so that we can get Telepathic Subjugation. This is a discipline which gives us access to a few really cool abilities. The Psychic Focus here will give us a +1 to our spell save DC, which is nice, but not necessary for this build. Broken Will is basically Command Grovel, but using an Intelligence save. Psionic Grip is Hold Person with an Intelligence save. Psychic Grasp is Hold Monster on an Intelligence save. And Psychic Domination is Dominate Person with an Intelligence save. Because each of these abilities are using an Intelligence save, we are highly likely to succeed at casting all of these so that we can exert our own will against our enemies and force them to do our bidding. Whether we want an enemy to sit down and stop fighting, freeze in place, or even fight on our behalf against their own allies, we more or less have total control over an enemy of our choosing. At level 4, we get access to Strength of Mind, which allows us to gain a proficiency in a saving throw of our choice at will. I'm almost always going to go with Constitution, because that will give us a stronger boost to our concentration saves and negates any need to multiclass into Sorcerer for that bonus. We are also going to get a new feat, and I'm going to start by taking an ability score improvement to increase our intelligence score to 18. Because this is our primary ability, it's going to boost our intelligence checks to a +4, give us a nice bonus to our saving throws, increase our proficiency bonus, and also just a number of other things. At level 5, we get access to 5th level abilities within our disciplines, and we get to pick a new one. Because we now have access to level 5 abilities, we're going to be taking Celerity. This discipline gives us a huge boost to our movement and also gives us the ability to cast Action Surge, which is really awesome. We get a cool Psychic Focus here, which increases our movement speed by 3 meters. This is fun if you want to use it, but it's not super useful for this build. We get Rapid Step, which is a bonus action ability that spends psi points and can increase our movement speed by 3 meters, or if we upcast it by 6 meters, 9 meters, and so on. Agile Defense allows you to improve your reflexes, gaining advantage on dexterity saving throws and imposing disadvantage on incoming attacks. Really cool. Blur of Motion allows you to obscure your own movements, becoming invisible until the end of your turn. Surge of Speed allows you to hasten your steps, gaining the effects of the Disengage action on a bonus action. And Surge of Action, like I mentioned before, gives you Action Surge. This is really powerful and just means that we don't really need to take like haste or anything like that. At level 6, we hit a critical point for this build. We get access to Arcane Dabbler, a unique subclass feature which allows us to choose 3 spells from the wizard spell list. That's any 3 spells that are levels 1 through 3. And we also get an ability which allows us to convert our psi points into spell slots to fuel those wizard spells. The wizard spell list is kind of big, as you can see here, and there is a lot of overlap between the wizard spells and some of the abilities in our psionic disciplines, so we want to be very specific about what we take here. As a mystic, we also have a bunch of abilities that use concentration, so we don't want to load up too much on those. Spells like Haste and Spirit Shroud would be nice to have, but they are concentration and we can get extra actions using our Action Surge anyway, so we don't really need these too badly. The first spell that I want to take here alternatively is Shield. It's not concentration and will just help us avoid being hit. It's only a level 1 spell slot for us to create and is stronger than any of the similar abilities that we can get through our psionic disciplines. Additionally, we want to take Mirror Image. This is also a non-concentration spell and increases our armor class by 9 and will synergize well with one of the pieces of gear that we're going to use. And Animate Dead is a great option because we don't have to concentrate on it and we can RP that we're bloodbending the dead body to act on our commands. And that's why I'm going to take it. It's a little dark to imagine Katara bloodbending dead bodies, but oh well. At level 7, we get to choose a new psionic discipline, and the one that we want to take is all the way down here, called Metacognition. This one gives us an ability which is like Guidance, but with a d6 and costs 2 psi points to cast. And we also get Clarity of Mind, which imposes disadvantage on our next discipline attack. But the main thing we're interested in here is Flow State. This is where we become a true waterbending master. Enter a state of supreme focus and immersion. While in this state, your concentration cannot be broken by damage, and you gain a +0 bonus to your spell save DC and spell attack rolls. +0, this amount is equal to your intelligence modifier. This effect will end if you stop concentrating or start concentrating on another discipline or spell. So if you choose something that you want to hold for a long time, you start concentrating on it and then activate your flow state, you will just be locked in. You'll get a +4 bonus because our intelligence is 18. Eventually, it will be a +5 bonus to your spell save DC, which is incredibly powerful, and you can't be knocked out of concentration. So this is a very powerful ability that costs 5 psi points to use, so you really want to use this on important moments when you really don't want to lose concentration, but this is definitely a high power ability for you to use. Additionally, if you're finding that you don't use any of the spells from Arcane Dabbler, we do have the benefit of being able to trade them out each time we level up, so that's pretty nice. You can go in here and choose any of these and trade them out for any of the ones that we had access to previously. At level 8, we get access to Psionic Strike, which doesn't really apply to us very much since we don't do weapon attacks. We do get access to a new feat, however, and we want to take Dual Wielder. This allows us to wield 2 staves at the same time for extra bonuses, or eventually a stave and a special weapon. This also boosts our armor class by 1, which is nice since we are a caster who wears light armor. At level 9, we have basically unlocked all of our high-level abilities within our psionic disciplines, because our psi limit has now increased to 7, which encompasses pretty much everything that we want to cast. We also get to pick a new psionic discipline, and at this level, we're going to be scrolling all the way to the bottom of our list so that we can grab Transcendent Form, which allows us to use Psychic Brand. Psychic Brand allows us to increase any one of our stats to a 19. I'm almost always going to use this on Dexterity, so once you get this ability, you could shift your ability points around if you wanted to and dump Dexterity to put some more points into Wisdom or Charisma or whatever you wanted to. Those are mostly your 2 options, because Strength isn't useful for this build. And, I mean, yeah. And we're not a talker, so it's mostly Wisdom that you get. Transcendent Form also gives you access to a Psychic Focus, which reduces the number you need to roll a critical hit while attacking by 1. That's cool, but not really part of our build. We get Transcendence, transcend your physical form, increasing the range of your psionic talents and disciplines by 50%, and doubling the duration of conditions, summons, and surfaces inflicted by them. While this effect is active, your movement speed will be reduced to half. You can end this effect with a bonus action. This is cool, but not super useful. This would be really nice for our spells that cast ice surfaces, but we can be putting them out so often that it's not necessary. And we also get Spectral Arms, which is a buff that can grant a creature a ghostly set of arms to aid them. They gain a +1 to weapon attack rolls, their carrying capacity is doubled, and they have advantage on strength checks and saving throws. Additionally, it can choose to make a weapon attack as a bonus action. This would be a really cool buff to put on one of your allies if you wanted to, but otherwise it doesn't really benefit our character specifically. At level 10, we get Consumptive Power, which I honestly rarely use. It allows you to tap into your own life force, regaining 7 psi points, but reducing your maximum hit points by 7. This is okay. It gives you extra psi points, but it also comes at the cost of your own health. Otherwise, we're going to grab a new psionic talent, and you can take pretty much whatever you want to. I'm going to be taking Mind Thrust because it is another damage cantrip that does psychic damage with a 3d10 and uses an intelligence save, so you're pretty likely to hit whenever you want to. At level 11, we get our Psionic Mastery, which allows us to cast any discipline for free. I like to use this on a high-level buff, personally, so that we don't have to spend as many psi points. And finally, at level 12, we get to choose our final Psionic Discipline. This one is ultimately up to your personal preference, since we already have the majority of this build kitted out. I'm going to be taking Intellect Fortress because it helps us to be a little bit more defensive, but you can very much take whatever you want here. And for our last feat, we're going to be taking a ability score improvement to top ourselves off with an intelligence score of 20. That takes care of the leveling for this character though, so let's take a look at some of the items and equipment that help bring this bloodbending build together. So when it comes to gear for this character, there are 2 things that we really want to focus on more than anything else. Since we're doing water and ice-based attacks, we want to focus primarily on items that will inflict the status effects that come from cold damage, like Chilled and Encrusted with Frost, as well as things that raise our spell save DC. The first item of which that we are going to look at is the Cold Brim Hat. It comes with Cold Brim Chill. Once per turn, any condition inflicted on a target also applies 2 turns of Encrusted with Frost. The Encrusted with Frost ability, if you are unfamiliar, will give the affected entity disadvantage on dexterity saving throws. When there are 7 or more turns remaining, the entity must succeed a Constitution saving throw or take 1d4 cold damage and become frozen. On a successful save, it only takes half damage. Afterward, the frost slows away, and it is removed by burning. This hat is going to pair incredibly well with Winter's Clutches, a pair of gloves that, when the wearer deals cold damage, inflict 2 turns of Encrusted with Frost upon the target. So every time that we deal cold damage, we are going to apply the status effect, Encrusted with Frost, 2 turns of it. And then because we are applying a condition, we will then apply 2 more turns of Encrusted with Frost, making 4 on 1 enemy per turn. Additionally, because we're doing cold damage, we're going to wear the Snowburst Ring. When the wearer deals cold damage, they also create a 4.5 meter circle of ice around the targets. This just means that every time we hit an enemy with cold damage, they are likely to slip and fall, and then we can do even more damage to them. Additionally, we want to wear the Cloak of Protection, which will just give us a +1 bonus to our armor class and our saving throws, which is really nice to have. We're also going to use the evasive shoes, which will give us another +1 bonus to our armor class and also a +1 bonus to acrobatics. The main thing that we want here is the armor class bonus because this character is wearing light armor, so we want to increase our armor class any way that we can. Speaking of the light armor, we're going to be using the robe of the elemental tyrant, which is light armor with an armor class of 13 and includes elemental dominance. Elemental attunement allows you to ignore damage immunity, and you make damage rolls of spells and disciplines with the chosen element with advantage. So that means that whenever you use your elemental attunement ability to go with cold, you can not only ignore enemies' resistance, you can ignore their immunity, which is really powerful for a few enemies in the game that are fully immune to cold damage, and you will also get advantage on the attacks. This armor also gives you a +1 to your melee spell attacks and your ranged spell attacks, which is very nice to have. And this armor can be found at Danthalon's Dancing Axe. It is not part of the base game, but gets added into your game when you download the Mystic and the Mystic Expansion mod, and is made very obviously to match specifically with the Order of the Wu Gen, because it does elemental attunement. For our other two pieces of jewelry, we're going to use the Amulet of Arcane Renewal. A hidden wellspring of magic awakens within you, expanding your capacity to replenish spent arcane energies. You gain additional use of arcane recovery. That's okay. The main thing we want here is high spellcasting. You gain a +2 bonus to spell save DC. This amulet comes to us from a specific mod called Wand and Weave Wizard Equipment by Graphic Fade, and is available on both PC and console. And even though we don't get access to the arcane recovery bonus, the +2 bonus to spell save DC is just as useful. Additionally, from the same mod, we're going to be using the Band of the Ascendant Spellcaster, which has Ascendant Might. You feel an unseen hand guiding your arcane energies, sharpening your focus and bolstering your magical defenses. Your spell attack rolls and spell save DC is increased by +3. So with this ring and amulet together, we have a +5 to our spell save DC. For our weapons on this build, we're going to start by using the Morning Frost in our main hand. This is the best ice staff in the game, other than Marco Heshkir, but this one has a specific bonus that we are after. First, this staff gets Heart of Ice. When dealing cold damage, the wielder deals an additional 1 cold damage, which doesn't sound like a lot, but because we're using vulnerability a lot of the time, we are going to be doing 2 cold damage additionally. So, and when we're doing an AoE, it will just kind of it'll all add up and be a lot more than just 1 at a time. The staff also gets Insidious Cold. When dealing cold damage with a spell, possibly inflicts Chilled upon the target. Chilled is a really cool effect because the affected entity is vulnerable to cold damage and resistant to fire damage. So we're not going to be using fire damage very often because they will be resistant to it, but every time we deal that cold damage, it will possibly make them chilled. The staff also has a +1 to weapon enchantment and comes with the Ray of Frost cantrip, just that you can use at will. And in our offhand, we're going to use the Cold Snap, which, when it is in your offhand, gives you Chilling Encounter. When a creature misses you with an attack, it must succeed a DC 13 Constitution saving throw or be chilled for 2 turns. So this means that both when we do cold damage to an enemy with a spell, or when we get missed by an enemy's attack, they will become chilled. Cold Snap also gives you a +1 to your armor class, which in combination with the dual wielder feat makes it effectively a +2 to your armor class. So the Cold Snap is both a shield and a weapon. So at the base level, this character has a 19 armor class with a 13 from your armor, +2 from dexterity, +1 from the evasive shoes and the cloak of protection and the Cold Snap, and also from dual wielder. But now we are going to apply some of our buffs that will make our character even stronger. For our first buff, we are going to use our Psychic Focus, and we're going to use the Mastery of Ice, which will give us resistance to cold damage and make us unable to fall prone on ice surfaces. Boom. Additionally, we're going to use the Strength of Mind to gain proficiency in a saving throw of our choice, and we are going to go with Constitution for proficiency in Constitution saving throws so that we can help maintain concentration. Additionally, we're going to use our Psychic Brand here to increase our Dexterity score to a 19. And what this has done for us, if we open up our inventory, is we can see that our armor class has increased by +2 because our Dexterity score went from a 14 to a 19, so the bonus we get from it is increased by 2. Our armor class is now 21, and we will be getting hit very rarely, especially when you combine that with your shield spell reaction and mirror image. We're also going to spend some psi points to summon in our water elemental here. And last but not least, we are going to cast Frozen Sanctuary on ourselves to sheath yourself in Icy Resilience, gaining 20 temporary hit points until long rest. Now we're a little bit tankier, and we just have some extra health to put away with us. We also want to set ourselves up for combat by turning some of our side points into spell slots. Specifically, we're going to create at least one level 1 spell slot, because this is going to help us do our shield spell. You can do this, you can create as many of these as you want. I'm going to start with just 2, because then we will have 2 uses of the shield spell for combat. If we find that we use them and we want more, we can create more of those first level spell slots at the expense of our side points. We're also going to create 1 level 2 spell slot for now, because that gives us 1 use of the mirror image spell. And I'm not entirely sure what it is, but we have a free level 3 spell slot to cast. So for that, we're just going to go ahead and cast our Animate Dead. I have a mod which gives us a few extra options here, but let's pretend that we don't. And if I'm going to go ahead and spawn in as Skeleton, the mod that I'm using also makes it so that we don't need an actual body. We can just spawn in our undead without needing body management. So now we have a skeleton that we can bloodbend with its marrow, I guess, and a water elemental. But that just about takes care of all the pre-combat buffs, so let's pop down and see what this character can do in some combat scenarios. I almost forgot to mention that an incredibly powerful elixir for this character to use is the Elixir of Peerless Focus, which gives you advantage on your concentration saves and against being charmed. Magic can't put you to sleep. The main thing that we want here is the advantage on concentration saves, which will just help us keep our concentration up even longer. One thing that we do want to keep in mind with our concentration is that although we cannot fall prone on our icy surfaces, and if we use our flow state, we cannot be knocked out of concentration by damage, the biggest threat to our concentration is a Battle Master with Trip Attack, because if somebody shoots us with a Trip Attack, that doesn't have anything to do with our ice, and it doesn't have anything to do with damage. It will just knock us prone, and we will lose our concentration that way anyway, so you really want to stay away from trip attacks. Obviously, if an enemy trip attacks you, then there's nothing you can do about it, and that might come across in this combat, you'll see, but trip attacks are really the main threat to this build. Okay, so now that we are ready for combat, I've got Astarion here as backup, as a open hand monk, just in case we need a little bit of help, but I don't think we'll need much. So let's go ahead and go into turn-based mode, and activate our mirror image. Now let's end our turn, and we are going to activate combat for ourselves by, what do we want to do? Let's start by popping an ice sheet down here. All of our enemies have fallen prone. Let's deflect some missiles. Deflect some missiles again. Nice job, Astarion. So, luckily for us, that attack missed us because we used our mirror image. Because that attack missed us, it triggered the chilled effect from our cold staff, so our enemy over here is now vulnerable to cold damage, which is really cool. But we are going to use Surge of Action here, because I want to get another action to use, and we are going to use that to do something fun. We're going to use that to do some bloodbending. We're going to grab some Psychic Domination, and actually we're going to psychically dominate this guy that just attacked us, because he's going to do some AoEs on all of his friends here. Nice. And now we are going to end our turn, and we're going to let Astarion just kind of do his thing. He's going to apply some blur just so they can't attack us very easily. And then we're going to end my turn. I'm going to have this guy do a shoot on some random boom, do some damage, and then come over here for us. They have no idea what to do. Now we're going to bring our elemental over here and make them cold. Take some damage, guys. End our turn. We're going to use our shield. Now we're definitely getting missed. And because he got missed, this guy is now also weak to our cold damage and doing damage to his friends. Thank you, Bloodbending. This guy is resistant to fire damage on account of being chilled, so we're gonna come over here, see if we don't slip. Ah, we slipped, that's okay. So this guy is chilled, but that means I'm going to use an energy beam. So let's do an energy beam and the ice version, because this guy is chilled. Do some damage to him. 38, he's encrusted with frost. And because we are concentrating, we're going to enter our flow state. We do not want to get knocked out of concentration, so we're going to go into flow state and become a true waterbending master. Come over here a little bit. End our turn. And let's see. Let's take this guy out. We might be able to take him out. Ooh, he's got 1 health left. Oh, well. Slip and fall, buddy. Let's see. Let's come over her. And then we're going to Winter's Breath. Oh, wait, no. Right here. Then we're going to Winter's Breath. There we go. Sweet. That guy's down. Thank you. Oh, he's saved. That's all right. Not everybody falls all the time. Now, thanks to our bloodbending, we're doing some crazy volley damage. What else do we have? Is anybody else chilled at the moment? No, that's okay. Because we're going to do another energy beam on her. Encrusted with frost. Nice, nice, nice. And let's end our turn. Let's have Astarion give this guy a good punch. And then give him another good punch. End our turn. And we have our Skelly here, and our skeleton is going to finish this person off. Or miss. On advantage, that's okay. How dare you? Charmed also counts as a condition, which will apply the encrusted with frost. And they're chilled now. Our elemental is going to do a big breath attack. Sorry, Astarion. We're maintaining the frozen surface here by continuing to freeze it over. Isn't bloodbending cool? Now we're going to finish off Gauntlet Edwina. And I don't need him to kill anyone else, so let's just end our turn. What we're going to do here, because we are being attacked, is... I don't know. What should we do? We're going to Water Whip. It's Water Whip at level 4, so we can push some of these guys away from us. The unfortunate thing about the ice surfaces and the water surfaces is that when we put water over the ice surface, it overwrites the ice surface and creates this big puddle. But what we can do is use our little action surge majig. And we can take our action surge thing and do an energy beam. And if we... Well, everyone's dead. Oh. Well, it doesn't matter because everyone's dead, so we're just gonna do an energy beam anyway. On this guy who's chilled. So he takes double damage from it. Where are these other guys? There's this guy up here. This guy's still alive, but he's still our friend, so we're gonna make him happy. Let's have this guy come up here. And let's give a slam. Nice. The nice thing about slam is that it also applies chilled. Where's that guy? Oh, in there. You don't even know what we're doing out here, bud. Let's get a shadow step going. And is there any shadows up here we can teleport to? No. Right here. Ooh, right there. Let's teleport. Boing! He's a shadow monk, I forgot. Yeah, let's go punch. End our turn. And... let's go ahead and take this guy out. We're done with him being our friend. His usefulness has subsided. So we're going to end our psychic domination so that we can hit him with a super powerful ice spike. And because he's standing in the water surface, it's going to freeze it. Hallelujah! We got ice. Flex missiles, sir. Nice. And now let's shoot the guy with an arrow. Miss. Oh, well. Teleport you back down here. And let's do a multi-attack. Boom! He's dead. Look at that. We took them all out. Astarion kind of helped a bit, but not all the way. Now we have all this water here because we're a waterbender and we just put water freaking everywhere. It was ice a minute ago, but ice melts. That's what happens. But that pretty much does it for this bloodbending Wu Gen Mystic build inspired by Katara from Avatar: The Last Airbender. What do you think of this build? I'm a really big fan of the Mystic class and how many options it affords you for creating pretty much any type of character. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Water Trap.